start my presentation with a quote from a movie that you may know already, and the quote is, they knew the taxpayer will bail them out. They weren't being stupid, they just didn't care. So why just put this quote? Just put this quote because basically this is what happened during the last financial crisis. And that was more than 10 years ago. And according to me, not that much has changed, and a lot of experts say that the next crisis will be even worse than this one. So you see that maybe they don't care at all. This is the provisional title of my PhD thesis. I'm a doctoral researcher. I'm born and raised in the Greater Geneva, and my research is about money, money, money. So I'm a doctoral researcher from the University of Lancaster in Cumbria. I'm a doctoral fellow from the European Regional Development Fund. And my research, I've been working on the field of complementary currencies since 10 years, but in the last 15 years, I've been working on the field of sustainable development, sustainable finance, sustainable management, and all these things. And what I discovered is that it's really hard to reach sustainable development goals without making a deep monetary reform. And that's why I started my journey 10 years ago. As Dr. Linda is about right here, 10 years ago, I started my journey on the field of complementary currency. And finally, what I also discovered that the DNA of conventional money do impose the economic growth for economic growth. So this is where I come from, and that's why I got an interest in complementary currency. So as I told you already, 10 years ago, I started my research, my integral research by complementary currencies. So complementary currencies, the currency which are not conventional money. Dr. Lendopinova will tell you a bit more about that tomorrow. So basically, time banks, local currency, cryptocurrency are complementary currencies. So my research project from this European Regional Development Fund focused on the Lake District town, and as I am very well organized, I brought you some Lake District town. Oh, cool. And also the passport. So this passport, I'm going to tell you a bit more about the passport. And here there's some Lake District town, 2019, two issues, two denomination of 2019, the five denomination of 2018, and also a bit of Bristol town and Brixton town, which are very famous in UK. So here they are also, the 2019 version of the Lake District town, which actually picture very famous and iconic personality from the Lake District. From this one, you may know Beatrix Potter, the one who wrote Peter the Rabbit. And all the other ones also linked with the different values, which are linked with the Lake District, outdoors activities. This is the founder of the National Trust. And Charlotte Mason was actually a founder of an alternative education in the Lake District, which was actually the college and before the school, which finally became the University of Cumbria where I'm studying. Here are these passports. So basically the passport work because in the shops, in some shops where you go with your local currency, which is backed in conventional money, you can receive stamps, and then you collect the stamps. Kids and family love it, and thus it encourages people to spend their Lake District time in the different shops. This is the title of my research project, which is funded by the RAF I told you about. And so yeah, the Lake District Plan is launched in May 2018 in the Lake District National Park, which is also a World Heritage Site, to support 350 local independent businesses, and profit goes to two charities. One is the Cumbria Community Foundation to support local communities, and the other one is the Lake District Foundation for the conservation of the lakes. This is the title of the paper that you're going to find, page 377. I just looked at it just before. 337, so this is the title of it. So basically this paper is much more about the methodology using within my doctoral research. And this methodology is called integral methodological pluralism. I'm going to talk about that later. And I wrote this paper with Jean Bendel. Unfortunately, Jean Bendel couldn't make it. Send you the gradings. I know some of you came here also to meet him. Now we really focus on deep adaptation due to the success of his last article. And so he now focuses on this deep adaptation agenda much more than before. So why do we need this research? The context, we know that there were a big economic crisis. There's also this climate crisis. The next one's supposed to be even bigger. There's the Sustainable Development Goals that have been into this United Nations agenda for 2030, and also this Sustainable Development Agenda have been integrating in the Lake District National Park Partnership for 2020. So we are facing an economic crisis, and we do need a sustainable development. And there are some research gaps in different fields linked with money. In the field of integral research, I'm going to talk about a bit later, there is a gap for an evolutionary story of money. In the field of currency innovation, which gathers together today, there is a gap in impact assessment of currency, and in monetary economics, there is a gap in the emancipatory explanation of money. This is my research hypothesis that I'm going to look at during my doctoral research. Money is an evolutive concept and a rule which activates values and collaboration while encouraging behavior and beliefs. And you're going to understand a bit more about these four words in bold within the next slide, which speak about integral research again. So the research question, what is the impact of currency innovation? But before asking what is the impact of currency innovation, I asked myself how to assess the impact of currency innovation. I am in the field of complementary currency since 10 years. I've been always focusing on this idea of impact assessment in order to raise money from funders, in order to improve the currency system within the project, and also I always looked at financial viability of the projects through business model, and all of that is linked with impact assessment. So I've always been interested in this idea of financial, economic, social, environmental impact. So the question is how to assess the impact of currency innovation. And the sub-questions are the initial condition for the implementation of a local currency, how to measure the impact, and finally, did this particular Lake District town fulfill its goal to support local economy and community. Now let's speak about the Lake District and about the Lake District town. So the Lake District National Park is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site since June, July, August 2017. I wrote it down in my paper, I don't remember. Last summer 2017. 25% of the gross domestic product come from tourism. But Cumbria is also one of the poorest counties in England. 58% of the population in northwest England, which is where the Lake District is, Cumbria County is, use contactless payment. And originally, the Lake District National Park Authority had been one of the investors of this Lake District Town project because they wanted to find a solution to take money from tourism in order to support local communities and also the conservation of the lake. So that was the original idea from the Lake District National Park Authority, which is one of the biggest investors of this project, to actually support it. Concerning the Lake District Town, August 2019, 342 traders, 28 bureaux de change, approximatively, because I don't have the last exact and detailed data yet, but approximately 150,000 Lake District Plan issued from May to May, because it started in May, so May to May, and from May to now, 65,000 Lake District Plan issued, approximately. In August 2018, for 3 months, 4 months after they launched it, I did a survey and approached 100 people in the street. 35% of them heard of it, but from the 35% who heard of it, only 9% use it. Also, 52% was actually interested on this value proposition, which was about supporting local businesses. And 22% was actually interested in this value proposition, which was about the profit of the scheme goes to these two foundations that I told you about, one for the conservation of the lake, the other one for this, the local communities. The revenue model, I'm going to speak about it later, but basically it's based on the fact that they made the hypothesis based on the experience of the Bristol Plan and the Brixton Plan that a huge part of the users never redeemed back their local currency to conventional money. And thus, people who finally going to keep, the Lake District Plan as a souvenir, as a gift, will finally create an income for the Lake District Plan project. Also, during another survey in August, because as you saw, the value proposition is based mostly on altruism, basically supporting local independent businesses and giving the profit to charities. But there's no commercial incentive, and actually 38% of the people I surveyed, again in the street, 50 people in the street, said that they wanted a purchase discount in shops. And also 26% of them wanted to receive a reward by collecting these stamps that are sold on the passport. But in September 2018, only 3% of the traders agreed on a commercial offer. Only 3% agreed on that. So basically, the purchase discount didn't happen. But what they tried to do, they tried to make a bonus offer. So for example, summer 2018 and also May 2019, during 1 month, what they did is like, if you swap 90 British pounds, so conventional money, you get 100 Lake District pound local currency. So you had a bonus, and this was supposed to be like the commercial incentive. But what people wanted was actually, even if I did exactly the same thing, is more or less plus 10%, what people wanted was actually a minus 10% within the shop. They were going to spend their Lake District pound. All right, the research approach. Integral research, integral theory, Ken Weber, what he says is that to investigate a phenomenon, there is 4 lengths to know reality. So this part is interior, this part is exterior, so that's subjective, objective, this line is individual, this line is collective. And by doing so, you have 4 quadrants, and these 4 quadrants are 4 lengths to know reality. One is about consciousness, beliefs, the other one is about organism, behaviors, one is about culture, values, and the last one is about systems and collaborations. And thus, there is 4 methodologies to investigate a phenomenon. And in the case of this research, I applied autoethnography, spending 41 Lake District pound by myself, a stakeholder analysis that look at the legal regulation in UK, and also look at the main competitors, which are loyalty and gift card issued by what they call business improvement development. And finally, case study of the business model and econometrics to look at the local spending. So these are the different methodologies I go through in integral research. This is just an extract of my papers concerning the stakeholder map. You found that in my paper. Just ran out of time, so just want to going faster. The research contribution and benefits. So the Lake District Plan is not successful yet, but does have the potential to be impactful. To be financially viable, they need to reach $1 million Lake District Plan, Lake District Plan issued. They finally valid their business model because from the 150,000 Lake District Plan issued during the first year, actually 1/3, 50,000 Lake District Plan has been kept by the users. Why? Because every year they just issue a new denomination, a new version of the denomination, 2018, 2019. So people are encouraged to finally keep it or exchange it for the new version. So that was their hypothesis. So their business model actually, their revenue model actually worked because 1/3, this is what they projected, they wanted 1/3 of it, for 300,000 Lake District Plan to become the income. So this is what they wanted, but unfortunately they didn't reach this goal of 1 million Lake District Plan issued the first year. So the second year, they only had 1/3 of their first year budget to finally try to reach 3 times their goal. Meaning, for the second year, they only reached 150,000 Lake District Plan the first year. They wanted this year to reach 500,000 Lake District Plan, but their budget was 1/3 less. And there are no budget left for the second phase development to launch a digital currency. So their revenue model is based on this leakage revenue model that I told you, the 1/3 being kept by the users. But their business model, the value proposition, is actually based on a travel pass for users because they are really targeting the visitors. As you saw, this is the main financial opportunities in the Lake District. And this travel pass is actually free of charge for everybody, the users and the traders. Why? Because there is no existing network in the Lake District between local independent businesses. So there were no bottom-up support from traders or even residents to this project. They just applied a top-down business-oriented strategy, and they had to create a new network from nothing for local independent businesses. And finally, they just found out that there were an inconvenience, that paper currency was not convenient to users and to traders. Mostly because both of them needed to go to the Bureau de Change to finally change the British pound in cash to Lake District Pound in cash, and finally go to some local independent businesses without any commercial incentive, and also for the traders to finally, need to spend it or to swap it back before the end of the year, because they couldn't use the 2018 issue the next year. So that was that was not convenient at all. And also most of the traders was not really aware of the Lake District Pound, so when the user was actually paying Lake District Pounds, the shopkeepers was like, oh, what is this? Oh, I should call my manager, all this stuff. So of course would have an impact on the trust of the paper currency. And they are now thinking about implementing a digital currency, which was more convenient because we're in this contactless and cashless society. I've been doing my survey just before arriving here. I don't have the result yet, but what I can tell you is that most of the people use contactless in UK, as so the previous report that I told you about. But the problem of that is they didn't have any more budget. And I think maybe what the complementary currency field should do is to create a consortium to propose cheap and user-friendly technology for complementary currencies. Finally, my other contribution, you told me 5 minutes, did you? Only one, right. 1 minute. Integral currencies. So why integral currency, integral research and currency innovation? As I told you, I use already many different methodologies, and in the future I'm going to use 3 different ones. And the purpose of my research will be to create an impact assessment matrix based on beliefs. That's it. Shut down now. Alright, just to finish my slide. Impact assessment matrix. So remember, integral research, belief, behaviors, collaboration, and values. And this is what I'm aiming for. This is a prototype that I'm presenting during my last poster presentation. So it's just a prototype, but the idea is to, these are the different levels of the integral theory. These are the different lines, and based on these 4 different quadrants, then you can assess a currency. I'm going to tell you a bit more during the next 10 minutes. I'm going to ask me some questions about that. And my idea in the future will be to create maybe an entrepreneurial project that will develop money means, create virtuous currency, and create a virtuous circle. To resume my research, to summarize my research, it's a holistic integral approach of impact assessment evolution of currency slash money. This is the illustrative bibliography. Thank you very much. If you have any question, I'm here for you. Thank you very much. So now we have 10 minutes questions. So here we are.
If anyone else does.
Tell me, Marcus.
Okay, 2 things. When I see that last diagram, it makes me think of people with donut economics. Is it related to that at all?
Make you think about?
Donut economics.
No, it is not. I know about it, not that much, but that's interesting. Thank you for the reference. I'm going to look at it a bit more if you're telling me that it looks like it.
And second one is a practical one with this currency. I can ask you lots more because we're staying in the same place, so I will. But I wonder, with this money, has it just displaced the spending that was going to happen locally, or has it generated any new spending or spending in a different direction?
So this is what I'm trying to assess now. So the survey I just finished actually last week, that is based on the perception point of view. So I've been asking hundreds of people, did this latest street count had an actual impact or influence in their purchases in local stores? And based on that, I will be able to answer this question. But I think it's hard to assess because, I mean, it's not hard to assess. I mean, it's hard to assess because, as you saw, few people heard about it, and from the people who heard about it, few of them use it. So actually, at the end of the day, even if you ask hundreds of people in the street, the found now data that you have of people who actually really use it is very small. But yeah, because this is the main question when you use local currency. Did local currency really have an impact on the increase of local purchasing? Right. But maybe you have some data about that on your different currencies. Maybe. Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's very interesting. I refer to an article you wrote together with the Winnebaum.
Yes.
I think that's also an impact research, isn't it?
Yes, indeed, yeah.
And there's a criticism about it by 2 Italian writers. One was Amato and another writer, I don't remember. No, somebody else. And the argument was, well, it's interesting. I think nobody could really criticize the skill with which he presented the paper. That was not the point. But the argument was the viability of the systems has to be secure. And the major reason is, you mentioned the key points why research impact is important, but a major point is really to secure the funding of the project.
Yep.
And the big problem really is for all these problems involving business, they are not sustainable. They need the funding. And that's what we observe now, not for years, but for many, many years. So the question is really, when will you be unemployed? That this impact research is not really necessary. That was the argument by the 2 Italians that they said, well, in the end, the users actually decide, and they're sustainable projects. And then impact research would play a certain role, but would not be important. The Swiss Mir, I don't remember impact research about the Swiss Mir, but it worked for many years. The customer decided about or the members decided about the impact.
About the paper that I wrote with Leander and the paper that I wrote after about trying to apply this impact assessment matrix on a specific project, which was the Le Mans the impact assessment matrix was actually a prototype, and I did apply it through a personal rating. So that's why I answered to some people who asked me about how I was doing the grading. I did it by myself. So the idea of this prototype was just to present the prototype and to maybe improve it. This is also the purpose of my doctoral research, and also to be able to implement it in a better way. So concerning the financial viability, I think this is really the point, because my idea is about complementary currencies. I mean, in the professionalization, of complementary currencies, has always been the following. I've been like, all right, at the beginning, you might need a lot of conventional money or a lot of volunteers in order to create a complementary currency and reach the typing point where the complementary currency will be strong enough, or would have a purchase power strong enough to finally replace the conventional money within the business model, within the revenue model. And I think, I don't know about the data, but it seemed that most of the complementary currencies never really reached this typing point where the complementary currency could be used for the revenue model. And so, since I've been in this field, I always thought that from the first phase till reaching this typing point, complementary currencies needed hybrid revenue model. So based on public funding, based on transaction fee, based on membership, based on, as we saw with the Calgary dollar, I don't know if a few of them were in the other room, the Calgary dollar also proposed to create sub-network for some specific companies, and then they were actually proposing this service through a consultancy fee, also like promotion of the company by accepting the Calgary dollars and all that. And I think this is the point. And the Lake District Town is a social enterprise, and they did receive funding through private investors, they call them like impact investors. But it seemed that unfortunately they didn't reach their typing point. But I think if you look at the Lake District Town, in actually 4 months, and actually after in 1 year, they did reach 150,000 Lake District Town issued and around 350 traders. And if you look at average complementary currencies, this is what average complementary currencies do reach in maybe 3 years, you know? I mean, I'm not going to speak about the USCO or these very particular complementary currencies that go way beyond that, but I mean, average complementary currencies do reach this goal. So actually the Lake District Town did reach the goals, and maybe they did even better than average complementary currencies. But it was not enough for their financial plan, because their financial plan was very ambitious. And why it was very ambitious? Because it was based on the territory where you had a lot of tourism, and they were targeting tourism, so they thought they can reach this goal. And the last question, I think I just forgot it, that you told me about. But anyway. Any other questions? Yeah? 2 minutes left. My questions. No? No more questions? You had a question, madam?
Yeah.
Maybe you forgot it?
I do. Wait, hold on. Oh, did you conduct a survey about why the paper currency was inconvenient?
So,
Because you spoke a little bit about that, and I'd like to hear a bit more.
yeah, so the survey, I just finished last week, but I didn't analyze the data yet. Asked the potential users and traders about did they found the Lake District Town convenient, useful, relevant, and stuff like that. But before I asked them what were their usual payment method, was it cash, electronic card, or contactless? And then I also asked them the main reason and motivation why they would interact with the Lake District Town. But basically, I didn't ask them why they found it convenient or inconvenient. But maybe I could ask this question in the interview that I want to do next month, because as you said, this is the main point. The main point is like paper currency is not convenient. People want digital currency. But why paper currency is not convenient?
That's
I mean,
interesting.
basically, it's not convenient because there's too many steps. I mean, there's too many steps to finally do something, and especially in the case of the Lake District pounds. Like, why would I go to Bureau de Change to exchange British pound to Lake District pound?
Right.
And actually, the exchange can only be made in cash. So basically, if I have a card, I go to the ATM, I take British pound, then I go to the post
Right,
address
so
information,
it's
I change it to
three-step
Lake District pound, and finally I go spending the Lake District pound without any incentive other than supporting local independence, and the profit might go to charity. Do you know what I mean? So there's so many steps, and even the stamps. You know, at the beginning they wanted to create a reward and a prize draw with the stamps and everything, and finally nobody were into it because I think it was too complicated. Because you had to go there and take a picture of the passport, send it to them to finally maybe receive a reward. That was not actually really exciting at all. So I think that was the main problem. The main problem is like with paper currency, there's too many steps. But actually, even in digital currency, I mean, if you look at the Saru Bobo coin compared to the Ono Pro, I mean, the Saru Bobo, I needed a Japanese seal. I needed to go somewhere, to put cash somewhere, to finally have it on my phone.
Right.
There's also many steps, so I don't know.
Right. That's interesting because the currency I work for, we're about to launch our paper currency. We've been a digital currency for 6 years. So
But it seems also that in UK and in Cumbria, between last year, 2018 and 2019, the rate of contactless just exploded. Totally exploded. So
it's also dependent on the region.
the region, yeah. But it seems like contactless, I don't know about other region and other country, how it is. If it's, I mean, 58% in northwest of England, and I can tell you this is the lowest rate in England. Other region are above 70% or close to 80% of contactless. All right, I think I've more than finished my time. Yes, you
I'll
are.
just finish, I'll give a point of information on that. They had in the UK wheelie bins. You've probably seen them as standard bins that go back in a garbage truck, and you can wheel them. And they asked the district I lived if people wanted wheelie bins, and 90% of the people said they did not want wheelie bins. They introduced them in the rest of the country, and about 5 years later, people were complaining, why haven't we got wheelie bins? The rest of the country's got them. So what happens is it's a familiarity thing, and Cumbria is a rural area. In rural areas, often people are very suspicious of something new, until it's been introduced and they've seen it working, they don't want it.
Right.
And so you may find the same thing, that people want what they're used to, they don't want to try something new. And my own feeling is, of paper currencies, if you're introducing it, I don't know, what's the community like that you want to introduce it into?
Pretty innovative.
Is it rural, urban? Or?
Very rural. It's a mix, actually. It's a large region with urban areas and rural areas. It's mostly farmland with small cities in between.
It would be worth doing some evaluation, like they've done on Contactless Pen, and seeing what people's attitude is.
Right.
Because if it's changing to digital and you introduce paper, it's a disaster. But if they haven't moved yet, like the currency, I'm kind of messing up my presentation, talking about stuff in the presentation instead of doing it. But I'll finish this point. In Susma, when they introduced digital currency, many people didn't want it. They wanted something paper that they could trust.
Right.
They lacked familiarity
Exactly.
with it.
That's.
Even though there's widespread use of digital payment systems in that community, they still, for a new currency, they would have the trust of something they could hold in their hands.
Right.
So you may find that.
So yeah, so I think there's also counter-examples that prove that paper currency can still work. So I think it really depends on. I think the hypothesis of the fact that they didn't have a bottom-up approach with an existing network is also something which is, I think, very interesting in the case of the Lake District Bank. Since the beginning, the traders didn't want to support them. They didn't want to pay anything at all. Since the beginning, since the project, they asked them and said, no, we're not going to support you. So that was also a point, you know, like in the case of USCO, it seems that they already have a strong territorial community network.
Can I cut you off? It's fun though it is. We share some similarities because we're looking from a common approach, an eco-social approach. I regard the situation we're in now as we need to undergo a great transition and we need to change our economies. I agree with Derek Jensen when he talks in the end game about cities are unsustainable because of the resources that they need. So my solution is that we need to move back to the villages, but we need to make a new renaissance, a rural renaissance in those villages. They have to be viable villages to function properly. So I think, well, how does that work then? Well, we have to look at the economic system, and we have to change it from an economic system that focuses everything into big financial centres in the cities into one that works on a much more networked way. If you think about a mainframe computer or network computers as we're going to see that. So that's what's shaping my research directions. And I'm interested in how can we help people to develop their community currency so that they work in that way. So ultimately I would like to make a manual to help share that. You will find my presentation on the little stick. It's number 5. They've numbered them rather than naming them. So I'm number 5. And yeah, I'm in Jyväskylä, which is in Finland. It's a small country. And my presentation isn't working. Should it be going to the next screen? There we go. Okay. So I'm going to present the institutional environment of Finland, a few properties and functions, some schemes that I looked at, and I want to talk a little bit about the idea of currencies and flows, which is how I help to look at those particular schemes in a certain way. And then there's an end discussion bit where I'd like to get your opinions on this. I would say that my investigation here is at a sort of preliminary stage, and I think a lot more could be done on it. But I think it's an approach that is an interesting one. It's not so much as a practitioner approach, although I want things to be of a practical nature, it's more theoretical. So to give some context to Finland, Finland's got a high fintech sector, and there are not only NGOs and associations there, but you also have some large government-supported quangos that support development from a very conventional marketisation approach, and they've been given charge. Perhaps it's for improving environmentalism or it's for stimulating innovation. So this helps things work. Good education system. People are well educated not only in English language but also technically, and it's a very advanced country. So for example, it has the highest mobile phone data transfer rate in the world, and everybody uses mobile phones. Perhaps they have 2 or 3 mobile phones. They do not use landlines. And you have very common plans that are unlimited use. So that's, with the legal right for internet access that everybody has, it means there's very high use of internet. As I said, there's a diverse third sector, and that doesn't mean this one organisation helps to support that third sector. There's several, and it goes across ministries. And it's an honest and law-abiding country. That's all the nice factors. It's very bureaucratic in a way. So there's a rent-seeking tax policy. That's a bit of a block. The bureaucracy, you have to do things in a certain way. You have to follow laws in a certain way. So you lose the flexibility there. There's quite a lot of racism in the country. It's not violent racism, but it is problematic. And lastly, it could be a blessing or a curse, is sisu. Whenever there's a problem, you will get through the problem, you will solve it. But that also means people are very stubborn to follow a particular path in doing things and don't always look for alternatives. Nevertheless, people have innovated there and that will have good things in them. So this is quite conventional for those of you studying money, which is probably all of you to some level. I think this is the properties of what money has to hold. So these are the basic ones. So I won't go through those too much. You can read more detail in the paper. But fungibility, durability, portability, and acceptability. This is the one which perhaps some people would argue are the same thing. And I think sometimes the acceptability is an issue that's not talked about very much. The cultural acceptability of something, if it's sanctioned to use that as money, it's quite a restriction. And again, there's more in the paper on that. And I think it varies if you look at money, how much, and again these can be measured, how durable is something, how durable is Bitcoin, how usable is it, how recognisable is something. And lastly, money functions. Now, if we look in conventional economics, we have these three, so measure, a medium, and a store. And we used to have, perhaps, these are debated a bit, whether it's a credit-debit theory of money, whether it's a standard of deferred payment or not. And I would say these are separate functions. So in my typology, they're separate. I think they're all quite important for how money is actually functioning, what you can actually do with it. And I think this starts to come into where I have a broader view of economics than perhaps the mainstream. to a more green or ecological economics, you start to split things and look a little bit more widely. So now I'm going to present a little bit of the currency, or non-monies as I call it. So SUSMA is a municipality. It's basically a village with about 4,000 people living in it, and they decided that with rural decline happening, they had to do something. So what could they do? It happens that they have quite a lot of different disruptive, I don't think you can read that, it's a bit small, innovations where they try different prototypes and different things. So they're trying e-citizenship, for example, this year, where anybody can become a citizen of SUSMA even if you don't live there, which in the Finnish context can't happen, you can only register in one municipality. They have looked at private healthcare. So Attendo is a private company who are providing a healthcare service. This is unusual. It's happening, the idea of marketisation in care, but they've actually done it. And they introduced a community currency. Now, they at times called it their own money, and there was no proper agreement on the format. So you can see some images there of what you could get if you bought the community currency. And in this case, you've got 5 and 20 euro denominations, but they could really be any denominations. You could have €6.13, which you would then have €6.13 when you exchanged it for SUSMA. You then spent it by taking it to the merchant who would accept it, and they would scan this in and take the paper off you, and you could keep it, and then it was no longer valid. In theory, there was supposed to be mobile payments, but it never happened. And I looked at the introductory phase of that. I have a paper coming out in European countryside that goes into much more detail on that particular currency. And then I happen to live in a place that has this point system. So it's a rental house foundation, is VTS in Finnish, and Kodit is a form of home, so it's points for the home. And they copied this from a Dutch system. And now it's also been technologically transferred to another housing provider, Vascular, where I'm studying. And this one is developing, and it's been quite successful. The model they've used to develop it is one person who lived in a house, and then works as a manager. And he looked around and thought, well, we've got some issues, how do we deal with the issues? He went on a visit of observation to this Dutch place, and copied what they had and have adapted it a little bit. So you can get points for a number of things, principally paying rent on time or being in a member of the membership of the different houses. So if I take my street that I live on, it's split into 4 zones, and each zone has a number of properties in it, and they have their own little residence committee. And then above that is a higher residence committee. So if you go on those residence committees, you get points. So that's the principal way. And then you can spend them on, as you can see, renovations, trainings, and the scheme is expanding. Yeah. The last one is Bookmooch. This is actually a worldwide site, but as I'm taking it from the perspective of people in Finland, this is something that operates in Finland. So I looked at this as well. I also looked at another, very briefly, at another website which is called Book Crossing. I don't know if you know these two, but what I find interesting is that Bookmooch is working on the idea of what I would say is money, so it's points and you're exchanging points. But what came before money? Well, in many cases it was a culture of abundance. When you had abundance you shared it, and when you didn't, you did something else. And it seems to me that book crossing is moving back to a culture of abundance. Because what happens with book crossing is you release the books you've got for anybody to take them. You don't keep ownership of the book. So that's interesting, that it's moving away from money and a money system. Another point that I found quite interesting I'd like to investigate is why are there so many Italians using Bookmooch and not so many Italians using book crossing?
We can't read that from here, Martin.
No, maybe you can't read it, just but there are about 2,000 Italians using Bookmooch. It's a very high number, it's the second largest number in the world. And if I look at the top 10 users of book crossing, Italy's not included. So why are there so many people in Italy using one rather than the other? I think that's interesting. And also vice versa, why one service rather than the other? So that would be some interesting research. I think you can't read this as well. It says the total points. This is book move points. So it rose by a large amount and then it's plateaued. This is basically because points don't come out of the system. When people add a book, they add a tenth of a point, and that points just circulate then. So it's not rising and it's not shrinking. So that's a problem. So then can you read this? Can you see this? Or not so well.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this again is in the paper, and here I try to take the properties of money, and this is my assessment about whether it meets these different criteria. And as you can see, there's not a complete rows of yes for any of the properties. So there's some properties that I don't feel are really there. So under this scheme, it's not fully money. So this is why I say it's non-money. You can argue and debate about how much at this level. That's my assessment of it. And then I did the same thing with the functions of money. And the closest to money was bookmooch, which historically was operating in many ways like money. It doesn't now, because the institutions where you could get extra points have now disappeared. So that's not possible anymore. These two, the SUSMA and the Vistikoti, the home points and the community currency, which was done by the municipality of SUSMA, I think those do not fulfill the functions of money. And mainly that's because, as Christoph has mentioned, there's difficulties in sometimes using these schemes, the steps that you have to go through. I think they break the usability and the accessibility. And I think these two particular nodes, they make it too difficult to function in that way. Now I come a bit to the philosophy which I talked about coming from the green economics viewpoint and why I start to broaden things. If I look at capitals and externalities, we heard earlier about this factors of production, the land, labour and capital. Those can swallow up everything else. So labour can swallow up knowledge and information because it's people that know it, and therefore you don't have knowledge as a separate capital. That begins to change as people start to expand and play around with the capitals. And I think this has led to these different views of how many capitals there are and a little bit more of a sloppy use of capital as a term. So we start to get natural, financial, social as well, human, accounting, and so on. But I think you can also see in another way capitals in a different way. So land has become, in some people's view, natural capital. Then maybe it becomes hooves and trees, so it's still objects. It's not the whole environment. But if it starts to become prairie and forest, it's much more inclusive. Because forest isn't just the trees, it's the animals, it's the atmosphere, it's the mycorrhiza, it's the fungi, it's the whole dynamics in there. So I think this is a change. And I think if we try to look within money systems, then there's a question about if we can capture those and how those relate. So I just say that this is a green economics perspective, ecological economics, which is where I'm looking. And these are some of the ways that people have tried to represent and capture those. Looking at different of currency, or intangible capitals, or strategic capitals, intellectual, traditional. You can find these with a search if you just do capital searches. This was the Forum of the Future, where they've tried to nest it as a nested hierarchy. So manufacturing capital relies on human and social, and that all relies on natural. I'm sorry, it's not possible for you to see the presentation. If anybody wants it, they can have it afterwards. And then these two guys, who call themselves at the moment the Meta Currency Project, and they have the concept of currencies to be able to see how the flows of an asset moves. So to me, if I think of these factors of production, I say they start to become capitals, and then assets, and how is that moving? That's the currency, that's the flow. So if I buy a cake downstairs, I give financial capital, cash money, and I get back relational capital, friendliness. But there's something else happening. There's trust capital being built. So I trust the cake is edible, it's good food hygiene, it's fair trade, and there's worker rights happening on where I decide to spend it. And deeper still is the natural capital flow. Where's the ingredients coming from? Where's the waste going to? So to see those flows that was this concept of, with currency, could you see the flows at all? So, can I spend them? That's also the other thing. It's great, I can see that it's a trust capital, but I think you can. And I give the example of when I was coming here and I talked to the guy in the shop, and I just told him, well, yeah, I'm going to Japan. And he said, oh, I like to travel. I said, where have you been? And oh, well, I go here in Finland. So we started to exchange knowledge and things. And the financial capital, he was there for a job. I was there to buy some food. But the transactional aspect, it grew beyond that. So I think the flow sheet helped to do this. And these guys, they've made a flow sheet that you can look at to try and do that. I was skipping through because the time starts to run. And when I looked, these are the three things that the different currencies wanted. So the system, they wanted repeated custom. They wanted the level of trade to rise. They wanted consumer, which has to do with consumer purchase diaries, you could find that. With Disney Potting, you could do it by an annual survey or feedback forms to measure the flows. And the mooch points, you could look at the feedback comments. So you could measure these other aspects of these flows with those things. And again, you can code them in different ways. We look at scales, type scales. What I did is I did an interview with some key people, and I used the flow space brainstorming worksheet, which the Metacurrency project produced, all 18 pages of it, and from that I could then assess things a little bit more. So here is some of, can you see this? Is it readable?
Yes.
Okay. They broke that, I broke it down into two sections. This is how they did it. They did a brainstorming, exploring flows. They looked at membership, the money trap, looking for flow systems. This was working for people who have some kind of community currency or project that's already going, and then how they would develop that, how they would improve it, so a targeting process. So as I say, they are more practitioners rather than theorists of what they wanted to do. But I found this useful way to analyse those three currencies. So if I take one, I can take the Disney Potting, I evaluate it this way. I have some clear purposes they wanted, which fit in with that way of analysing. So who's their community? It's tenants and rent payers. How is it relevant? Well, home improvement. They want to climb up Maslow's peak, so they want people, more sustainable communities, happier communities, and ultimately sustainable cities in the world. How do they establish credibility? Promotion through the website, the newsletter, customer magazine. You saw that earlier. What about usability, facilitation? Well, they do an interesting thing. They use forced membership. So everybody who is a tenant has to join the scheme. And that works quite well, because if you have to join the scheme and you get the currency, you'll spend it. And that seems to be what's happening. They use participation incentives. So they came up, the inventor in Finland came up with the idea of the target year. If you stay for a whole year, you get a bonus. And that makes management easier, because people then leave after whole years rather than monthly, so they don't have empty lettings. And lastly, how they sustain value. So from the flow sheets, this brainstorming flow sheet was the idea of keeping it going. And now we're talking about the idea of a co-op. So this might allow other flows and trading to come in, so people who are able to do carpentry or fix computers could do that as a business with other people. And what do they get out of it? Well, this is things that hopefully happen. So lower housing turnover, reduced repair costs, on-time rent, planning, participation in a Talcott. Do you know what Talcott is? Probably not. It's in the paper if you want to read it. So Talcott is a mutual assistance. So for example, if I'm moving house, and you come and help me move house, I'll give you a box, and you can take the box and load it in the van. And if you do that, I'll cook you some cookies. And that is very common in Finland. Or the yard's looking messy, well, can someone clean it up? Yes, everyone will gather around. So Talcott's used for various organisations do them, or individuals do them for these kind of purposes. So we have Talcotts once a year in our little group of residences. So this is a way to motivate people to do that. Ultimately, solidarity is strengthened and numerous capitals are mobilised as different flows and currents. Yeah, okay. So we've got things like a Kotter, which is a real space. So, okay, I have time to talk about the main thing, which was I regard these things as special purpose money, and they come when there's been general purpose money before. They're restricted, they can only be used for certain things, so that's what my suggestion is. I think ultimately it fits into a continuum where we come from the near money or the proto money that I've described, towards community currencies, to fiat, general purpose money, and then I have a concept of all capitals, community money, which might fulfill ecological benefits as well. So this again is an idea under development, so don't take it as too strong. But I certainly think that this proto money is not quite. So thank you.
So 10 minutes. Any question from the assembly?
The man in the blue.
So you know what's coming, and I know you looked at what other businesses, and I'm biased as to your answer, but I just wanted to hear it from you. So you're giving functional descriptions of money, and then you're using that for more an ontological, this is money and this is not money, kind of judgment on the non-money currencies that you look at, which perplexed me a little bit, because you didn't actually give a definition of money, you just looked at
What it
functions that it does. And I mean, how do you find working with that?
So I squared it two, finding properties and then looking at functions.
And then giving a judgment. Well, no, you're giving functions, and then you're making a ontological statement as to this is money, this is not money, by just looking at function beforehand. So, and Georgina would like to add to that question.
If I may,
Yeah.
it's an ontological problem. You cannot define something by what it does. I mean, one thing is what it is, a different thing is what it does. Because there are so many things that do things that money does. I mean, my cigarettes and my pencils are probably fit in many of the characteristics you mentioned, but it is not, ontologically speaking, the same as saying a pencil is money, because it does things that money does. It's a very philosophical discussion.
No, I'm sort of.
But you know, susceptible.
You can add something
I
here.
would like to add. Yes, you give a lexicographic list of functions, but you have functions that are contradictory one with the other. Store of value, exchange mean of exchange. If you store value with money, you cannot use it as an exchange. So you destroy the exchange function. So it doesn't work. This presentation, I do agree.
And also that you can
You
really
cannot
start.
define money by its function.
I think he is presenting something beyond money. When you have complementary currencies, you have an idea like let's to exchange goods, to exchange things. No? In this case, we exchange our, first of all, the value of our interactions. It's itself in the digital economy is a value. The value of our attention and our personal values. And our personal skills, which become money. I myself, my identity can become money. My name, and so, is a token. Could be a token. So we are much beyond, as far as I can understand.
See, you're
The tokenization or similar, the holochain is, you didn't mention the holochain.
I didn't know, there's only so much time.
Okay, the holochain is an alternative to tokenization because of the consensus model, but there are multiple ways to build it. And I think, I don't see any contradiction.
Well, we asked him.
But
It works.
that's because in
It does.
economics we define money by what it does. You read any textbook of economics.
Money is what you are, not what money does.
No, no.
What you are in the interaction with others. It's a different, it's a jump to another world, from my point of view, at least.
To give a quick answer, this again comes back, this is why your work is so opposite here, is the difference between money and currency. So it's when it starts functioning as currency really is the question.
That is, no, sorry, that
That's
doesn't quite
escaping-
answer.
That's
the
escaping the
answer.
question.
Yeah, by just doing the same with another expression, like functioning as currency and defining something as
So is
currency.
it money? Is it money when it doesn't flow?
Well, you haven't defined money, so I can't answer your question there. But I'll answer tomorrow in my presentation.
Okay.
All right.
I could say, perhaps something that you may want to have a look at as author is Searle. Searle, I think, is 95, but he distinguishes precisely constitutive and regulatory.
So who's the author?
Searle,
John
yes.
Searle.
John Searle.
You saw the references in my thesis.
Also, okay.
You didn't understand.
Yeah, but this portability it could be ported, but it's only when it functions that that's actually realised. It's a potential. It's not realised at this point. So is it money when it isn't realised? Is it only realised when it functions? So when it's doing something, it's not doing something just because it has that property. The property has to be activated. That's why I put the two together.
I think we will have a big opportunity tomorrow for people who want to follow the presentation of both Georgina and Leander to go deep into this definition of money and currency, because it's a deep topic. So
It's a big philosophical
so
issue.
yeah, it's a big interesting one. Any other questions?
What's your presentation?
Yeah, I have a question. The title of this conference is Going Digital. So you've been studying 3 different currencies, and I was wondering, according to you, comparing paper currency and digital currency, which one would be the more convenient, or the more, all this question of usability? Looking at these 3 currencies, because I know that some of them are paper currency, some are actually digital currency. So I just wanted to have your point of view on this, about convenient usability of paper versus digital currency.
For this currency, it didn't work because the people weren't ready for it and they didn't do enough democratization. Actually, I think digital currency would work better for this one. But I also think paper would work. At the moment, paper would work okay for here. For this one, it has to be digital currency, really. If it's going to function as a currency, it's got to be digital. At the moment, it's a currency system where you get a voucher and you take it to a shop, but it could easily go on a card. And I would move this to be on a card system where you spend a card with different providers. So I would base that as a card-based work. So as I say, that could be paper at the moment, but in the future it would be digital. This would probably be a card. This can only operate digitally, no card, no paper.
And what would be, according to you, what would be the main criteria to choose between a paper currency or digital currency?
The acceptance criteria.
All right.
What are people prepared to actually
So what do
use?
people want?
What people want.
So what
The customer decides.
customer decide. I think it's a good conclusion. Sorry.
Can you go back to the QR code one?
Which one?
This one, previous.
This one.
So they would withdraw it digitally, right? They print those out as like an ATM-ish thing to print them.
You could print it at home, or there was an
Yeah.
office that you could print it.
And then if you hand it to someone, they would presumably accept it. Like I could do it as a
They
peer-to-peer.
would scan it with some mobile phones.
What if they didn't?
You didn't scan it.
They would
If you
risk-
wanted to trade it with me and you trusted me,
Yeah.
I could give it to you
So I've got to
and you could
trust
trade
you.
it as a real.
Because you could have scanned it and then hand. So once it's been scanned, you should just rip it out.
Yeah. Unless there's residual amount on it. So this says 20, you might leave, I don't know, 50 cents on it.
We've got a lot of people without phones and things, so you still have the use case of paper.
But you could still scan it to see it was genuine. You could still see that there was money left on it.
Yeah.
So you could still trade that way. You wouldn't have to just take it on trust.
I was thinking of a scratch card, so you would know if it had been spent.
The scratch card's an interesting idea, for instance. Scratch off the.
So if you want it to be peer-to-peer without a phone involved,
Well, there were all sorts of problems with the way they did things. The lack of experience, I think. I don't go into them too much because I think they're symptomatic of many community currency projects that don't succeed. They didn't use expert advice enough, and they didn't have enough money, they didn't have the local people, they didn't get the buy-in, the government was screwed up. They split the community so people were against it, and that defeated it. Didn't do enough reward systems.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Next. All right, so we are running 10 minutes late, and it's mostly because of me, so I'm sorry for that. Thank you very much. So next and last presentation of the day will be Bruno Terret. You have the presentation here.
My presentation will be about another kind of complementary currencies, national tax credit instruments as complementary currencies. It refers to a proposal of fighting the austerity in the Eurozone without saving, without quitting the European Union and the Eurozone through a national fiscal fiscal tax credit instruments. Now I speak of instrument of payment system, not to use the word money, but it refers to juridical debate because there is an argument not to speak of money because in the European Union, digital or system of payment are not submitted to a unique juridical regime, but you have more possibilities, juridical possibilities to implement complementary system of payments. And as the national states have a competence in fiscal policies, so it would be more easier to implement this kind of tax credit system of payments if we don't speak of money for them. Money as legal tender, which is the main problem. So, it's not usual in the literature on complementary currency to focus on this type of complementary currency issued by public power. When we take into account public powers, local public powers, or regional or national public power, we only refer to the juridical aspects of subsidizing some devices which has not the status of public money, of statutory money. But there are many historical experiments of this kind of complementary money, essentially in federal polities, in federation, where you have a distribution of political competencies which is unequal. The national state, which is a federal state, does not have the monopoly of political competencies. There is a distribution of these competencies to the different tiers. It's not levels, I prefer tiers of governments between the national or the federal and the subnational, provincial, cantonal, even municipal, when municipalities has a federal status of independence, like in Brazil, for example. in my presentation, I go against this tendency of reducing the problems of complementary currency and local currencies only to commercial market local currencies and reciprocal or mutual credit currencies. If we take a Polonian view on the economy, on substantive economy, there are other principles of distribution, of socialization, and of distribution of resources and socialization. And public power are based on the third principle, which is redistribution of resources in the society, with the idea that people enter in relation through a center, through a political group, which has the capacity to redistribute resources. And for this, we need a money for reciprocity, we need a money for market exchange, and we need a money for redistributive allocations. And that's what we observed in many societies before the neoliberal revolution in the 70s and 80s, when the capacity of the state to issue specific monies with their own public purposes was forbidden. The case is very clear in the case of Maastricht Treaty, when it was generalized to all the member states of the Union, but it has been the case in the United States before. The federal treasury was no more emitting directly bills, treasury bills, but only treasury bonds, which were interest bearing, and only when these treasury bonds were back to the Federal Reserve, when commercial banks resell or redeposit these bonds, then the Federal Reserve issues treasury bills, dollars note. So it is something which is in capitalist market society was very usual 40 years ago, and now it was forbidden. We have different movements in society which are fighting to change this rule, but very historically justified rule, and to come back to issuing tax credit money, which are the type of money that public power who are producing goods and services but on a non-market way, such as public education, public health, public amenities, and so on, need to use in order not to get indebted too much, and so on, and to have degrees of liberty in producing non-market goods and services. So that's the spirit. So the paper I proposed is quite normative because it's a pre-project, because it's the idea to issue such money, such tax credit money, is not of actuality. So I would not say that now, because we had in Italy very recently 2 propositions to issue such things, one from the extreme right and other from the extreme left. So it's mini-bot for La Liga, and it was tax credit certificates by large economic recurrence from the left. Well, so the idea is, I have to go. Well, the idea is the political idea is the following. To fight austerity policies, we have two propositions. We quit, countries have to quit to leave the Eurozone because they have lost the possibility to manage economic and monetary policy who could address the problem set by the European Union and the unicity of the money unit, the singleness of the euro, and which a unique monetary policy which is creating very large and increasing inequalities between different countries because the value of the euro on the international market is advantageous for rich countries from the north, with Germany, Netherlands, France, it's in the middle, and very bad for the economy in the poorest country of the south, and when we have the financial crisis, it appears that it was the case since the beginning, notably for Italy, etc. And we discovered that there were not, in fact, one euro, but different euro with market value, with different market value. When the rate of interest between the north and on public debt were quite different, and they exploded, the spread exploded. So, many people from the extreme right and the left say we have to quit euro to counterbalance the effect of this policy because it is impossible to manage change at the European level where the situation is blocked. Evidently, it would be possible to address this problem through fiscal federalism, for example, fiscal redistribution, but as the European state, European Commission, European Parliament, etc., are against the fact that the European Union be authorized to levy taxes for its own sake, it's impossible to organize a fiscal federalism at the level of the Union because member states have the monopoly on fiscality, on tax. So the unique way to organize and to reissue tax credit money, fiscal money, is at the level of where is situated the power to levy taxes. So it is at the level of the member states. Okay? So and on the other side, you have the position of the elite, technocratic elite, and financial elites who are controlling the European institution for the moment, which say, no, we do not touch, we do not change anything in the Euro organization, institution, because it's very efficient. Euro is very good in the world, it became a reserve money, etc., etc. So you have this opposition of to leave, to quit the Eurozone, or not to quit the Eurozone, but without doing anything, And the only things to do if we do not quit the Eurozone is to do what we call devaluation, internal devaluation. That means austerity policy for countries who have not the possibility to balance their public finance and so on and so on. The other aspect is that the development, the forbidding of the power, monetary power of the member state goes with the increasing public debt, because now when a state wants to finance its deficit, it has to issue debt on the financial market. It cannot anymore issue money because it's forbidden, and even if money would be possible, would be efficient because of the existence of a treasury circuit which allows this money emitted at the beginning of the year to be destroyed at the end of the year, what we call floating debt. It's possible to use institutions in order to organize this issuance without any inflation and with decreasing financial debt. So to finish rapidly, I explain, the best is to explain what it is, the basic principle of this. It's to reinstitute a treasury circuit. What was the treasury circuit? And when we speak of money, we know that money needs a circuit. Money is it's a discussion with you. Money has not to be durable. Means money, one flow of money must be destroyed. When it is created, it has to be created, destroyed, recreated permanently. And ecological economics, they are based on this principle also. Money must not be eternal.
No, not
If
eternal.
you take Geisel, if you take Steiner, if you take Kennedy, all the thinkers of money fitted to environmental and social purposes has to be a flow. And has to be created, destroyed, because it's a debt, but it is a debt which is auto-destroyed. So, if you what is how does function fiscal complementary currency? But it's when you pay public. As I said, you pay public spending through money, so you can pay part of public wage of officials in a special purpose money, which is fiscal credit money, and what ensures the value of this money is the fact that you can pay taxes with this money. The principle is that the state is not a classical household. It has the power to issue money, but it can do it, is legitimated in doing that, if this money is able, has the capacity to pay taxes. So, to be destroyed through the spending tax circuits. So it's basically, it's a basic principle of public finance. So that's why we can think the money issued by the state is not is not purely fiat money, because it's also credit money in this view. Because the state, public powers, project also, you project their future also. as entrepreneur. You can have a project of building a new society, a new enterprise, a new corporation, new goods, etc. But on the part of the public power, with public purposes, these powers also have to forecast the future. And when you are going to develop education, health policy, you have to project your future. And it's a production, and we can analyze in democratic states the fiat money, the capitalist money, as a fiscal credit money. It's also a credit, it's a money which is issued with a view on the future and which anticipates over future tax revenue. Bon, you see that. Bon. Alors, this point is finished. Okay, just one word. Now on the problem of digital, when we start to develop this kind of reflection, which would allow member states to issue their own currency without quitting the Eurozone, because this national money would not be legal tender. They would be only tax tender. So they would be complementary to the euro. And after, if some would be issued, we would have a negotiation between the function of central bank could be enlarged to the regulation and combination of bank credit money and fiscal credit money in order to maintain the unit of account, the stability of the unit of account. Because this fiscal credit money also must be at par with the euro if we want the Eurozone to continue to carry on. If we want that this fiscal credit money be only complementary and not substitutive to the euro. So, and projects of this kind of money sometimes are vehicles to provoke this devaluation, to provoke the crisis in the Eurozone, but it's not the case in this kind, in the case I described. It's to maintain the unity of the community of accounts, but introduce a plurality of means of payments. Okay? Bon, on the digital, now the historical experience, for example, of provincial fiscal money in Argentina, which are quite recent, because it was, now they are speaking in the present crisis in Argentina. Provinces are speaking of reissuing this kind of money. They were paper monies. But now, as it appears in the book of Varoufakis called Conversation Between Adults, when he presents a kind of device which is akin to we call fiscal credit money, he imagined a new treasury secret. Every citizen would have an account at the treasury. Citizens who are getting money from the state, and citizens who are paying taxes. And it would organize a sort of clearing chamber, clearing union of the citizens who are involved in the public finance secrets. So the whole population, in fact. But you would not have to use a commercial bank to pay your taxes, as we have to do now, and it would destroy completely the floating debt of the state that they have to finance, but through treasury bonds on the financial markets. And it would destroy all the process of increasing of public debt. With that. Bon, I stop that because I have no time more. So it would be a new form of this fiscal tax monies under the system. It would be a digital system of payment. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So any question in the assembly? It seems that there's two questions already down there.
They're not
Three questions, all right. Oh, a lot of questions. All right, let's start with Dr. Bindeval.
You mentioned that there are other proposals out there. Do you make a point of having your proposal is very different from, say, monetative or positive money or the practice in Argentina or the practice of the Central Bank of Canada? Are you saying it's very different what you're saying because you have a different...
It's not, no, because they want to best have seen this. They want to go from one system, monopoly of banks, capacity to issue money, to monopoly of the central bank.
Right.
So from one monopoly to one monopoly, another monopoly, all state or all market.
Right.
The idea is to have many forms of currency circulating in one community of the time.
But since they...
with parity between the different means of payment in order to facilitate exchange and so on. So you could have mutual credit money, market exchange money, and fiscal tax credit money. The idea is to combine rather than to substitute one type of money for the other. It's to promote plurality of the means of payment.
But the model in Canada where the central bank is monetizing debt and yet private banks are creating money as well, would that be close to you?
No, but in the case of the central bank now, they do not issue cash.
In Canada, they do.
Yeah, in Canada.
Yeah. Like they had a long history of actually doing
now
it.
with quantitative easing, but the purposes of the issuance is only to reinforce the monopoly of bank credit money as the only form of money, which is coherent with the theory, new Keynesian theory, financial theory, that money must be capital assets, must be an asset. They do not imagine that a money which is not an asset for the capitalist economy can issue. There is a lot of things on this point of view, but it is a dominant point of view, even on the left side. Even in France, in the economy satire, you have neo-Keynesian. Who does not want the idea of the state issuing very specific types of money. For them, it's archaic.
All right, next question. Georgina?
Yeah. Do you want to go? I'm still thinking how to rephrase it.
Okay. Just with blockchain money and digital money, you have the ability to do a lot of programming in the money itself, and so you don't. Taxation doesn't have to be a voluntary act. It can be built in to the currency itself, and so like you could have a built-in demarrage, you could have a built-in systems. I just wanted your thought on that.
No, it's very different. I don't exclude this type. Even from local communities, municipalities can use blockchain, but it's not. They do not mobilize for this their inherent form of functioning, which is redistributive principle. They are using reciprocity principle. So, at the local level, the frontier between redistribution and reciprocity is very blurred. It's blurred.
Right.
But at the level of national state, where you have the monopoly of armed force and so on, you have a principle, efficient principle for redistribute from poor to rich, or sometimes from rich to poor. There's a way around, as now. We are. So it's different type of. At the national level, I don't see the interest of a blockchain and a ledger for national fiscal money, because I see the utility of a parliament who is voting the amount of money issued in 1 year by the treasury. We need to imagine a kind of force for political power, aside from the judiciary power, the executive and the legislative power, that we can find back monetative and so on. But we need a monetary power, a democratic monetary
Just to give you an
power.
example, like you could have a contract that is quite clear that the taxation or demurrage goes into X and recirculates, or is destroyed and then recreated. That could be a written policy in a smart contract. Right?
After you can combine all these principles in specific devices, but
Rosita, you had a question?
Yeah, I have several questions, but because of the time, I will pick just the most important to me. Do you think about the question, which taxes could be paid by this fiscal money? The taxes on income, on consumption, or in assets?
everyone is, if you are, you can pay TVA, you can pay your personal income tax, or and corporation can pay indirect taxes with that, because they will, when it is issued through distribution of incomes to different categories of population, salary, wage earners, education for the poor, or things like that, pensions and so on, and payment of providers, payment of providers of goods to the public, to the administration and so on. This money will circulate in the whole economy, but with specific effect, which are important, that they cannot buy. The circulation, because it's tax tender, and tax tender is national, this money cannot circulate in other countries of the Union. For this, we have the euro. So we have a combination, we have a dual system of currencies. But parity, if parity one-to-one is ensured, well, after it's to build the trust, the money, and so on. But this money will be also efficient to rebalance exterior balance, because it's a kind of protection against the fact that you import all the food, etc. It's an incentive to develop the local economy, not the national economy, and reducing importation, because a large part, or 20–30% of the monetary basis would be in local purchasing power, represented by this fiscal law. So it's a need to recalibrate the relation through monetary emission, because the fiscal weight is blocked.
All right, so we run out of time. We're 50 minutes late. As I am the chair, I would just say something about presentation, because I have the power to do that. My main concern is that so far what I understood from the European Union agenda is to avoid the national monetary sovereignty. So basically what I understood, they want to create one currency for the European Union, and I don't think the second point is, so basically at the end, the first option would be the only one according to me. The second one is like, have you heard about debt consigné? Because you're saying that the money should be issued as a credit and should be entirely or partially backed by the tax. And Bertrand Séné said, Séné, yeah, I'll send you the link. So Bertrand Séné, what he said, actually, as a state, you do have the monetary creation sovereignty, so you don't need to issue money as a credit, but you can issue it as a donation, and you can destroy the money through tax in order to control the inflation. So you don't need to issue it on credit, you can issue it through donation and thus focus democratically on some specific sectors and then destroy it through the tax.
A large part of public spending is donation, in fact, already.
Yes,
so it's not contradictory with that. But for the monetary sovereignty, that's why we do not use the term money for this kind of means of payment, because it's a means of payment. And already, central bank has not the monopoly of issuing money, because commercial banks, American Express, they are issuing money. And you have different, Target 2 has not the monopoly of system of payment between. You have many private system of payments actually in the present.
Oh, right, so we should issue it as a private bank.
So that's very interesting, because we work with some jurists and they discover the plurality of the monetary European law. It authorized many systems of payment within, even in France now, community currencies, local, they are recognized as means of payment. They have to be backed by bank, but now it is a title for payment by law. So you know, it's it comes back to the debate on the nature of money.
Tomorrow morning.
Because and we make distinction between generic property of money, universal, because money is universal.
Okay.
It's not literal.
Tomorrow.
So the session is officially finished, but of course, could go on with questions and answers and questions.